I call it from blockbuster to lackluster IPO. It's IPO light, kind of face saving probably. We have read and heard a lot about the various doubts that cropped up since the plan was initially announced in January about how well it would be received internationally. So I think given the circumstances, they're probably, they've whittled it down. The scaled back version probably has a chance of being called a success on that metric, that it gets a reasonably good uptake in the domestic market. So I think that's what it's boiling down to.
And it really will be driven by the institutions, as you pointed out there, rather than those retail investors. But when it comes to, of course, the secondary listing, this overseas listing where everyone outside of the kingdom will be able to get a slice of the company, do you think that that is now way out in the future?
I don't even know if we can say it is somewhere out in the future. All the techniques that they have employed to get a good, demand, work up a demand domestically, and some of the qualified foreign investors, it's not really going to work on a global scale. So that tells you a lot. Looks like they might just have to settle for this for the time being. And, on the other hand, you also have the longer term outlook for oil prices. We see the world over, pension funds, hedge funds are paring back their investments in oil companies. So, all of that put together, I wouldn't really hold my breath for an international offering.
Okay, Hadley has a question.
Vandana, it's Hadley out in Abu Dhabi. I mean, following on to that, we've got some pretty key dates for that Aramco IPO coming up, and they actually fall, as you probably very well know, on the dates of the JMMC and OPEC Plus meetings in Vienna, and just a week or so away from now. I mean, what's your outlook there? Because there have been so many conversations about the prospect for deepening of cuts. The Russians have already signaled that they're probably not going to get on board with that. How do you see those meetings playing out?
I think OPEC, non-OPEC at this point are pretty much hemmed in. They don't really have very many options. They don't have much clarity, especially on the demand question of the oil markets going into 2020, because that really hinges a great deal on what the US and China do. And at this point of time, if you look at the financial markets, the world at large is just reduced to guessing. It's flipping between optimism and pessimism over the possibility of a phase one deal. So that's a big unknown for OPEC. Look, there were a lot of discussions about questions over will they deepen their cuts, given that it doesn't look too good, especially for the first half of next year in terms of the supply-demand balance. But Russia is clearly a hawk within that group. If you have Brent sitting well above, comfortably above $60, as we have had in the past few weeks, I doubt Russia will be supportive of deeper cuts. I think a range of other issues as well. The Nigerian and Iraqi compliance is not too good, so that usually opens a can of worms if you're talking about deepening the cuts. At the same time, I think letting go of the cuts is not an option either. So they don't really have much of a choice. And I've been saying this for a while now. I think they'll probably just roll over the existing reductions.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.